In this video, I discuss how to select a handgun for defensive use. Thanks for watching. One mistake a lot of people make when they go to buy a handgun is listening to salespeople that really don't have any experience, but they do get commission and they get perks from the gun manufacturers. Or someone's buying a gun for somebody else and they think that smaller is better when it comes to choice for concealability, and they usually pick wrong. Every single couple that I've had come to me for either private lessons or were in a basic handgun class where the husband bought the gun for the wife, it was the wrong gun for her, it didn't fit her hand. So, high level aspects that I look at for choosing a handgun. And we're talking about defensive handgun use. So I'm only talking about polymer frame, striker fired, drop safe, semi-automatic, 9mm handguns. Love 1911s, love revolvers, but if you look at the numbers of what is sold worldwide, military, law enforcement, armed citizens, it's this platform. This is what I'm focusing on today. So, the first thing I'm looking for is whether or not the gun fits my hand. What do I mean by that? We need to get pinky finger onto the frame. We don't want a grip module so short that we effectively have 1.5 fingers on it trying to hold on to it. We want to get a good grip on this handgun, especially if we're shooting and fighting one-handed in a defensive scenario. So we want to get all of our fingers on the grip. So folks will say, well, wait a minute, that's going to make it harder to conceal. No, a longer barrel makes it harder to conceal because it's harder to sit, it's harder to move. Canting the gun in a holster will bring the grip forward and you're not going to stick out. So I'm not worried about grip length in terms of concealability. I am worried about it in terms of controllability. I want to be able to control this handgun, especially shooting one-handed. Now, extended magazines doesn't work for me. Why? The magazines are designed to be loose inside the mag well, and you're not getting a firm, solid grip on an extended magazine that's moving around in your hand. So that's number one. Number two, I want to make sure that my trigger finger can reach the trigger properly, and your finger with your trigger finger, this should be roughly a 90-degree angle. If the gun is too big for your hands, you're going to have a hard time getting your finger onto that trigger properly. So you want to look for this 90-degree condition here. So that's number two. The next thing that I'm thinking about is the controls. I would argue that every right-handed shooter is a left-handed shooter because you should put enough training time in to be proficient with your non-dominant hand. But if your primary hand is left-handed, you will want left-handed controls or ambidextrous controls. So if the slide lock lever is only on the one side, you're going to have a hard time locking that slide open. So you may want to pick a different platform that has ambidextrous slide lock levers, for example. On these Western design compatible type pistols, the magazine release button can be flipped so it is suitable for a left-handed shooter. That's built in. The next consideration is how the gun feels in your hand. How does it actually feel? Is this style grip, again, once we satisfy the minimum requirement of getting pinky on frame, how does this feel in our hand compared to something that has this shape, more of a blocky shape? How does that feel? The one that feels best in your hand is probably going to be the gun for you. You're going to want to shoot it more, you're going to want to train with it more, it's going to be more comfortable. And having a gun at your side is comforting. The next thing is once you find the gun that satisfies your hand size, how it feels, has the controls that suit your right or left-handed body, the next thing is your perceived accuracy with that gun. All of these brands, all these platforms at each price point, they're all about the same mechanical accuracy. Pick the one that you are most accurate with. It's your perceived accuracy. That's important. How the trigger feels. Do you want a curved trigger? Or do you want the super cool flat trigger? How does that feel in your hand? How accurate are you? Are you more accurate with one than the other? Those are all factors that go into handgun selection. Full-size gun. I carry a full-size gun all day, every day, concealed for the last 30 years. I don't have any problem concealing a full-size handgun. The compact version, or kind of the middle size, is something along in this neighborhood. So we're going from about a 4-inch barrel to about a little over 3.5. And finally, we're getting something that's a little smaller yet, but a gun like this still holds 12 rounds of 9mm. These other guns here, 15 to 17 and 19 rounds of ammunition is common. Takedown lever is another consideration. This particular platform has a lever that you just simply, once the slide's locked open, you turn it 90 degrees, unlock the slide, and the slide is removed. This one here, you got to kind of get into kind of a different grip mode here to pull back slightly. You got to hear the magic click, and then you pull down from both sides, and then push it off, and it's a little bit of a trick to do, but once you get used to doing it, it's really not that big of a deal. All of these guns, these modern polymer frame defensive handguns, all have internal safeties. These guns do not fire on their own. There are no springs under compression or any internal hammers ready to strike on their own with mechanical failure, because they all have double action triggers that start that process of firing. The only safety that will never fail you is finger off the trigger. That and the internal safeties that we just discussed, more than enough, did not have any issues. I've never had a negligent discharge, ever. But for those that prefer to have a external safety, and for new shooters, I highly recommend against not getting the grip safety, because a lot of new shooters have issues fully engaging that grip safety. But some folks prefer the thumb safety. This particular model happens to have a thumb safety. And so you can get these polymer frame striker fire drop safe semi-automatic handguns with external safeties if you choose. A lot of these guns today have really good sights out of the box, some not so much. Sights are an accessory. For another $100 or so, you can get sights that suit you and your eyesight. And one last consideration. Some of these guns come pre-drilled for red dots. Others don't. This one here is not. So if I wanted to add a red dot to this, then I would have to go do some custom machining work. This one here, I remove a couple of screws, this plate comes off, the optic goes on, and we're good to go. You're limited by what optic you can put on out of the box because the optics manufacturers don't talk to each other very well and the fastening pattern is not standardized. So there's that. Other than that, it's going to be brand preference, how it feels in your hand, and how much money you have to spend. I would highly recommend choosing a platform that has been tested for reliability under extreme conditions. If it works for military and law enforcement adapted it for their use, it's pretty good for the armed civilian. It's going to work when you need it to work. And that is all I got. So remember, be safe, stay dangerous, and keep your force justified.